Have you been adventuring for many years and have you acquired a lot of gold and you have no idea what to do with it? Or has your last character been eaten by a roper or a Tarask or a roper mounted on a Tarask, whatever? Are you looking into new playable options for your new character? Or are you a dungeon master that wants to help their players die from some new traps or some new magic items? Maybe you should buy the Xanathar's Guide to Everything. Before I go deeper into the details of this book, I just want to say a few things. I have a few concerns with this book. Although generally I like it a lot, there are some minor things that I am really worried about. For example, the first and maybe the biggest thing is if you are only a player or you are only a dungeon master, you are essentially buying half a book. Yes, because half of what's in here is only for players and half of what's in here is only for dungeon masters. And if I tell you that it counts about 200 pages, even less, then I do not know if it's worth the money for people who are only players or only dungeon masters. To put things into perspective, this is the Xanathar's Guide to Everything. This is the Xanathar's Guide to Everything, and this is the Player's Handbook. As you can see, the Player's Handbook is a lot thicker than the Xanathar's Guide to Everything. If you are like me and you are both a player and a dungeon master, you will get a lot out of this book. Also, the first chapter of this book is about the rules of Dungeons and Dragons and explaining more in depth some of the rules of Dungeons and Dragons and especially why these rules are in Dungeons and Dragons. This is perfect for newer players to get the hang of what this game actually is. For example, very early in the book there is a rule that says the Dungeon Master adjudicates, that's a word, adjudicates the rules. This is the most important part of Dungeons and Dragons. So players really should read up on this little tiny piece of text because it's so very important. But now, of course, the most important stuff in here is the playable options for player characters. I am happy to say that in this book, every class that is in the Player's Handbook gets new options. Not one, not two, but most of them get 3 or even 4 options to play. So there is a lot of great and a lot of maybe less great, but still very good content in here for every class. I'm saying Bard, Cleric. By the way, the Grave Domain Cleric looks really awesome. A friend of mine, hi, Tahina. Hi. Is playing one right now and I really love it. There is a Hexblade in here. There is a Samurai even in here. I really love that they are going back to the old school days of 3rd edition and they are focusing on subclasses rather than new entire classes in Dungeons and Dragons 5th edition. Back in the days they were called prestige classes, but right now they are talking of course about archetypes and domains and colleges and schools of magic, and they are really going into detail on those things rather than create entire new classes, which is just not necessary because all the classes in the Player's Handbook already cover a lot of ground. For example, there is a monk archetype in here which is called Way of the Drunken Master, which looks really cool to play, and I'm going to test this one out really soon because I kind of like the idea. It is basically a guy that acts like he's drunk or is drunk, I don't really know. Depends on how you want to play him, probably. And he can get up on his feet quicker. He can redirect attacks to other people by dodging them in his drunken ways. Basically, he's Jackie Chan in that one movie where Jackie Chan is a drunken master. If you are a rogue lover, I have very good news for you because this guy gets 4 new archetypes, which are all very great, but there is one feature in here that one of my players is playtesting right now, and that's a feature of the Mastermind, I believe, and that is that he can use the help action as a bonus action. On paper that doesn't really sound amazing, but when you play this well enough, this can be really good. For example, if you use the help action to help one of your allies attack another creature, this ally doesn't need to be within 5 feet of you like in the normal rules, but the Mastermind can do that from 30 feet away. So basically the Mastermind will be able to attack enemies and even give one of his friends advantage on attacks as a bonus action. I really think this kind of stuff is really amazing. If you're a rogue, just buying this book will be worth it alone. Then, of course, there is the fighter, my absolute favorite class. We already all know this. This guy also gets 3 new archetypes, which are really called archetype this time. The samurai, the cavalier, and some kind of archer dude, which I'm probably never playing because I never play an archer. I really like this middle guy, the cavalier. I don't really like the samurai. Well, I like the samurai, I like his abilities, but I don't know what his abilities have to do with being a samurai. It's just like as if they just decided to throw in some abilities, put a name on there and call it a samurai, just because people want to have a samurai in Dungeons and Dragons. Which is pretty awesome. I just want to talk a little bit about this cavalier dude. He sounds really awesome because this is kind of the knights from the playtesting stuff. Basically, this guy is very good on a horse, but also very good inside of a dungeon. He can help his allies in all kinds of ways. He has this taunt ability he can use to make creatures attack him. And if those creatures don't attack him, they get disadvantage on their attack. Basically a taunt, like in an MMORPG. That's massive multiplayer online role-playing game. Just look at this barbarian artwork. This might be a good time to point out one of the other things I really don't like about the Xanathar's Guide to Everything, and that is the quotes that are on the top of the pages that are that should have been written by Xanathar himself. They are meant to feel funny, but they aren't. The barbarian class, roar! I feel angry. Funny, I don't feel any stronger. Maybe because I'm always angry. I'm always in top condition. Stands to reason. Clerics. I don't understand the attraction of gods. Why would anyone worship anything other than me? The Oath of Conquest Paladin. Conquest sounds cool. Do you have to leave your home for that? Because I have a fish called Silgar and I can't be away for too long or he gets sad. But then there are the Dungeon Master tools. And if a lot of playable options for every class and a lot of new backgrounds and even feats are not enough for you, then you can really get your claws in the second part of this book, because we also have some very cool Dungeon Masters tools. For example, something I encounter a lot is that people, including myself, don't really know what exactly they can do with those poisoner kits and alchemist kits and tinker tools, whatever. What exactly you can do with those kinds of things, and this book explains it very well. Every tool set has a description and a difficulty class to maybe identify something or build something. Look it up in here and you can have the difficulty class, you roll for it and you either fail or you succeed. This can come in a very handy during downtime in a city or a village for your player characters. Another thing I really like Wizard of the Coast doing is these 2 pages. Yes, I have encountered this so many times where I needed to ask my players who know the rules slightly better than me. Slightly. How do you see cones and pyramids and spheres and stuff like that on a battle grid, and this explains it very well. And what Dungeon Master doesn't like? Random encounter tables. There are a lot of random encounter tables in here for every kind of situation. Just to give you an idea of the amount of random encounters that are in here, there is these 2 pages, there is coastal encounters, these were Arctic encounters, there are desert encounters, there are more desert encounters, forest encounters, grassland encounters, hill encounters. Yes, again, some very cool artwork. There is mountain encounters, swamp encounters, yes, Underdark encounters, even for those silly guys who decide to go to the Underdark for some reason. More Underdark encounters, underwater encounters. This keeps going. This literally keeps going. And of course, urban encounters, traps, more traps, and even more traps. Okay, I admit it, I said it is a very thin book, and it still is a very thin book, but that doesn't mean it is over already. Yes, we had very cool player options, we had very cool dungeon master tools, and now there is even a pretty decent spell book that adds to this collection with some very cool new spells, new possibilities for every spellcaster in the game. Another thing I really want to point out, and what I'm already using for my Dwarven Fighter right now, is the racial feats. These are only 2 pages of racial feats in this book, but I think it's a very cool idea to have feats connected to the race you are playing. For example, I'm playing a dwarf with Dwarven Fortitude. Basically, he can spend a hit die when he takes the dodge action, so he will be harder to hit and he will heal himself in the middle of combat. Also, there's Orcish Fury. This is the guy who is even harder to take down, and even when he's taken down he gets an extra attack and stuff like that. There's at least 2 feats for every race in the player's handbook in this book, which I find very cool. I tend to play a lot of fighters, so I have the ability to take and try out a lot of feats, so this for me is amazing stuff. There's a 4th level spell in here that's called Find Greater Steed, and basically spawns a whatever you want, a griffin or something of that kind for you to ride on. That's so cool. So to round up, I really like this book and I really like a lot of the stuff that's in here. But what I don't like is that if you are a player or you are a dungeon master alone, you will be spending too much money on this thing. I'm sorry, it is just not enough content for only a player or only a dungeon master. If you're like me and you're both, please go ahead, go on Amazon or somewhere else, go to your local gaming store, because support your local gaming store and buy this thing. It is really worth it. The artwork is great. The humor in this book is really, really bad, or I'm just not getting it. But you know, there are options for every class, there are options for random encounters. Old rules get explained a lot better. There are a lot of great new spells in here. Also some stuff I didn't talk about, for example a magic item here and there, and downtime activities, which are also very important. There's even more in here I didn't talk about. But well, I cannot talk about everything. If you are not sure about buying Xanathar's Guide, the Xanathar's Guide to everything, and you want somebody to explain to you every single thing that's in there, please go to Titan Bear Gaming's channel. He goes through everything in this book. I mean, all the classes are explained by him. So if you want real details of this book, go to his channel, go to his Twitter. I will link it in the description below, of course. And I hope your inspiration will guide you.